friends. I wrote on my story that I'm a penetrating dick, and that's probably pretty offensive for a lot of people. Here's the thing. There's masculine, divine characteristics and feminine, divine characteristics. And part of the masculine divine is to penetrate. That's the use of the phallic. The phallic symbol is that representation. The yoni, or the womb, to include the vagina, is the receiver, and we're to both receive and penetrate as human beings. We don't have to have anything, but it seems to aid us greatly if we have the ability to do both. It's interesting because I feel a shift inside of me, going back towards the more masculine side of myself. So I'm losing the shyer side of myself and the more receiving side of myself. I'm not losing it, but I explored it very deeply from 2016 to like right now, 2021, and really just absorbed life, absorbed lessons, absorbed other people's energy, absorbed my own energy, and began to digest my own feelings, and a lot of the pain that was inside. I was able to address it warmly with love and care and tenderness, that can only be found in the divine feminine. I had to embrace that to get to a certain level of healing. And that healing is not complete, for sure. There's a ways to go. But this is a time for me to begin to assert myself, or at least allow my voice to be heard in a stronger way, in a more masculine way. So here I am. And I think that there are other people, not necessarily all males, that will be called to have that stronger voice, and that will, like especially females, will learn to protect themselves more and still remain feminine. Protect themselves in a masculine way, perhaps, by being more assertive and still remain feminine. And I think men will learn to assert themselves into darkness more, like the womb, and penetrate light from more of a feminine aspect, so from more of a loving way rather than a warring way. I do believe that we are in a a turning point in humanity, in social structures, in knowledge and understanding of who we are as humans and who we are as beings beyond being human. many of the things that have been bound up in us for a long time are being unleashed, much of it through scientific methods of yoga and breathing and things like this. At least that, to me, helps us fine-tune this instrument that is a body. And this body is an instrument. This body is an instrument. It is a better receiver, a better antenna, a better sender than our cell phones. There's no need for Neuralink. There's no need for that. All we need to do is learn to control the power that's within us. I don't understand it completely, or I've only begun to discover what the body is capable of. And I know that my own body is much more capable than most people think our bodies are. But there's an element of discipline that's involved in being able to locate those usually, or open those. And that's the only thing. If I have a superpower in humanity, it's the ability to be disciplined with my body and my schedule. And discipline is a masculine characteristic that's very positive, that's sometimes used in a negative manner, and yet it can bring about some dramatic results when used in the correct way. So one of my hopes is to give a different view of masculinity that has been sort of, the masculine in our society has been demonized. I know about demons. And that demonization of men is it's not healthy. It's not healthy for men or women. Right now, men in their, what do they call it? The mids, whatever, the middle-aged men. What a stupid term. Anyways, there's an age bracket of where men are the highest rate of suicide that we've ever seen in the Western world, specifically in the United States. And part of it is that men need to feel as if they have a job. And that's just being real. Men need to feel as if they have a role in the world. And right now, most men don't feel like they have a role. And even the role of fatherhood has been taken from many men. And think about in your own households, whether it be your parents or in your own household now, how much, say, Father's Day is recognized versus Mother's Day. And oftentimes you'll find that there is a large discrepancy. So men don't make a big deal of things like that, but things like that have their effect. Men don't talk about their feelings often, and I can tell you as a man that does talk about his feelings more than nearly anyone is comfortable with, that you're often rejected, certainly by women specifically. Men just don't really know what to do with it, usually. But they're getting better at it, actually. It's amazing. I've seen a drastic difference even in the last few years. And by few, I mean 1 or 2. maybe it's just the crowds I'm with. I don't know. But even in the crowds I'm with, women are not as comfortable with men being vulnerable and emotional as they think they are, because when they're faced with it, they have no idea who that person is, and they truly don't feel that they can trust them usually. And it's just interesting. There are certain women, certainly, that recognize it right away and understand it, and I've also experienced that, which is beautiful. And I thank you. Many of you are my close friends, and I know how valuable you are. I'm very grateful. So, men, our job is not necessarily to penetrate and like overtake, but just to be solid in who we are. I speak sometimes too much. It's actually not a very manly quality. But our most powerful way of speaking is our actions and our ability to take care of ourselves and our ability to stand either with or alone in a crowd and remain exactly who we are. It's desiring others' approval, of course, just like anyone, but it's not needing it to do what's needed. There's an unapologeticness to doing what's right and what's needed, and from our own perspective. We can still be open-minded to other people's perspectives and accepting of others' ways of lives, ways of living, and still remain completely who we are. Still remain in our own bodies. And we can sometimes project our ideals like I'm doing right now. It has to be in a manner, the best people at giving advice are people that wait until it's asked. So I'm throwing advice out on the internet to people out there looking for it, right? This advice will find whoever it's meant to find, correct? Of course. And yet, when I'm sitting in a room of people, they may not necessarily desire my advice. We do have a tendency to want to solve everything, when most things will actually solve themselves. And many of our friends, I'm speaking to myself here, many of our friends, many of our spouses, partners, loved ones need to be heard in a way that they feel they're understood. Need to be reassured that everything's going to be okay without being told how to solve it. This is often a hard lesson for us to learn. I know this well. It's difficult being a man today, no matter what path we choose. It's certainly difficult to be successful as any human today because in the corporate world it means usually ignoring things that we don't want to ignore. And I think that there are some men that are tired of ignoring those things and would like to do something. And the time is soon, if not now. So if you're feeling particularly strong in that, root into your courage. Plant your feet solidly in the ground. And do the things you know need to be done. In love. In a loving, loving, gentle way. Penetrate darkness with the courage of a man and the gentleness of a mother. Evil is destroying itself. And there's a sense of too much resistance towards anything, or resistance towards anything helps it to grow, gives it energy. So study how to attack something from a different way. One way to do that is to practice jujitsu. I know that sounds funny, but it trains the brain to think from angles that the brain has never thought of before. The body is put into positions it's never been in before. The duress is on the body. Another way is yoga and meditation. Reading The Art of War helps tremendously. Another way is simply to spend time imagining the world that you want. If you've ever heard athletes talk after they've won anything, nearly every one of them that's being interviewed says, I imagined this. I imagined this as a little kid. I imagined this as a college star. I imagined this as a rookie. Some of them are so in the moment that they never imagine anything, and they just keep simply doing the best that they can every single time they do something. So play after play after play, they execute with such precision and the desire to get better that they don't even need to imagine. They just work so hard towards it, they're focused so hard towards the same thing that they inevitably have success. So it doesn't really matter which one you do, but I can tell you that if you're a worker and you never imagine, you may be surprised at the doors and the magic that can open with the imagination. There is an element of creation in that, for sure. There's more than one way to create. Hard work is certainly one of them. Imagining is sometimes hard work also. Don't get it twisted. The theory of relativity came from Einstein's imagination. It didn't exist before he imagined it. The fifth dimension, Western science is just catching up really to what the fifth dimension is. I believe spiritualists, which Einstein was a spiritualist, have understood the fifth dimension for a long time, and dimensions beyond that, specifically in the Asian countries. I think that's enough for now. I love you guys. Bless you.